Welcome back to Wainsider, where we don't just watch the action, we feel its emotional tremor. Tonight, we witnessed a return that was less a celebration and more a somber procession, a moment that redefined vulnerability for a man who once seemed invincible. The arena held its breath as a familiar, chilling melody hit, but the figure that emerged from the smoke was not the conquering tribal chief we remember. It was Roman Reigns, leaning heavily on a simple, wooden walking stick, each step a measured testament to a pain far deeper than the physical. The roar of the crowd was not one of fear, but of a profound, collective empathy, a "welcome back," that felt more like a whispered prayer than a cheer. To truly understand the gravity of this image, we must journey back through the entire emotional history of this man. This is a story of power, not given, but thrust upon him, the anointed one, the chosen heir to the immense, suffocating legacy of the Anoa dynasty. For years, we watched him shoulder that pressure, met not with universal acclaim but with a wall of resentment that he internalized, forging it into a silent, simmering fury. That silent resentment became his fuel, the bedrock upon he built his empire as the tribal chief, the head of the table. His power was absolute, a force of nature that commanded acknowledgement through sheer, terrifying will. He surrounded himself with family, believing that blood was the one unbreakable bond, the one sanctuary in a business built on betrayal. But the foundation of his table was rotten. We saw the cracks spread, first with Jay's defiance, then Jimmy's manipulation, and finally, the earth-shattering collision with The Rock, a war of ideology within the very family he sought to protect. Each betrayal was a fracture in his armor, a chink in the invincible facade that left him isolated atop a mountain of his own making. The pressure to maintain that dominance, to project strength while his world crumbled around him, has been the defining, tragic conflict of his reign. Please like, share and subscribe for more WWE content. That is why his entrance tonight, with that walking stick, was perhaps the most powerful promo he has ever cut without saying a word. It was an admission. It was a confession of mortality from a man who presented himself as a god. He moved past the roaring crowd, his eyes not filled with arrogant swagger, but with a weary, hardened resolve. Every tap of the cane on the ramp was a metronome counting the beat of his vulnerability, a public display of a private struggle that immediately changed the entire atmosphere in the building from one of excitement to one of tense, emotional suspense. He entered the ring, using the ropes for support, and gripped the microphone, the walking stick standing beside him like a crutch for his very reign. His voice, when he finally spoke, lacked its usual booming command. It was lower, huskier, layered with the gravel of pain and experience. He didn't speak of domination first, he spoke of respect. He acknowledged Bronson Reed's devastating power, he recognized Bron Breakker's explosive, unchecked ambition. But he spoke of these traits not as threats, but as currencies he understood all too well, currencies he had spent a lifetime trading in. He was looking directly at Breakker, and you could see the history flashing in his eyes. He wasn't just seeing an opponent, he was seeing a phantom of his own past self, the raw, impatient talent, the unbridled ambition waiting to be shaped and hardened by the cruel realities of this business. He spoke of the pressure, not the pressure of a main event match, but the pressure of legacy, of carrying a name that weighs more than any championship title. He was trying to impart a lesson, to warn the young lion of the loneliness that awaits at the top of the mountain. But Bron Breakker does not want warnings, he wants the mountain itself. The tension built not with shouting, but with a chilling silence between Reigns' measured words and Breakker's seething, impatient glare. Reigns, the master psychologist, was trying to extend the mantle of wisdom, to assert control through experience rather than fear. Breakker, however, saw not a teacher, but a king who had grown weak, a symbol to be torn down. The walking stick was not a symbol of battle-worn wisdom to him, it was a flag of surrender he was all too eager to capture. Bronson Reed, the Colossus, watched this exchange with a calculating gaze, a predator waiting to see which combatant would show weakness first. The ring became a pressure cooker of egos, with Reigns' diminished physical presence somehow making his aura even more intense, more tragically noble. He was a king refusing to abdicate his throne, even as his body failed him, believing the power of his name alone would be his shield. It was in that moment, as he turned slightly, his hand resting on the ropes for support, that the shocking climax erupted. Bron Breakker moved with the speed of a thought, a blur of ruthless intent. He didn't go for a spear, he didn't go for a tackle. His eyes locked on the symbol of weakness. In one vicious, contemptuous motion, he snatched the walking stick from where it stood leaning against the turnbuckle. The world moved in slow motion as he raised it high above his head, the object that represented Rain's vulnerability now transformed into a weapon. And with a sickening crack, he brought it down across the back of the tribal chief. The sound was horrifying, a violation of something sacred. Rains cried out, a raw, guttural sound of agony and shock that was immediately swallowed by the gasps of the crowd. This was more than an attack, it was a desecration. Breakker had not just attacked the man, he had weaponized his vulnerability, shattering the last vestige of his dignity. Bronson Reed, seeing the opening, joined the fray, a tsunami landing on the already broken form of Reigns. The two stood over him, not as conquerors, but as grave robbers, having plundered the aura of the once untouchable king. The emotional aftermath was a deafening silence, a void where the crowd's energy had once been. We had not witnessed a beatdown, we had witnessed an assassination of aura. Roman Reigns, the head of the table, was left curled on the canvas, surrounded by the splintered pieces of the very tool that was meant to help him stand. The image was one of utter devastation, a portrait of a king deposed in the most humiliating way imaginable. The slow, emotional tension of the last decade had built to this single, brutal act of disrespect. Backstage, the whispers are not of excitement, but of sheer, unadulterated shock. The word, disrespect, is being uttered in every corridor, but it's paired with a chilling sense of inevitability. Some are condemning Breakker's actions as a step too far, a line crossed that can never be uncrossed. Others are whispering in awe of his audacity, recognizing that in one heartless move, he has catapulted himself into a stratosphere of infamy. There is a palpable sense that the natural order has been fundamentally, and perhaps permanently, disrupted. The most solemn whispers, however, concern the legacy. The Anoa name is built on a foundation of respect, earned through decades of sacrifice and toughness. Tonight, that name was not just beaten, it was disrespected on a profoundly personal level. The walking stick was a symbol of needing help, and that plea was met not with compassion, but with violence. What does this mean for the family's standing? Has the aura been permanently stripped away, or has this act of ultimate disrespect forged a new, more dangerous fire within the tribal chief? This crossroads is paved with betrayal and broken trust. The first great betrayal came from within his family, fracturing his world but hardening his resolve. This betrayal is different. This is a betrayal of the unwritten code, a violation of the respect owed to a warrior who has given his body to this industry. The trust that his legacy would protect him, even in a weakened state, has been shattered into a million pieces, just like that wooden cane. He has learned that outside the bonds of blood, there exists a cold, ambition-driven vacuum. And for Bron Breakker, he has made his statement in the most indelible ink possible. He is no longer just a rising star, he is the man who broke the tribal chief not just physically, but symbolically. But in doing so, he has not merely gained a powerful enemy, he has created a vengeful spirit. He has awakened a rage in Roman Reigns that will be fueled not by the desire to win, but by the primal need for retribution, to wash away the humiliation with blood. The heart of this saga has always been blood. Bloodlines, blood oaths, and the blood spilled in battle. Tonight, a different kind of blood was let, the blood of respect, the blood of tradition. The very concept of acknowledging one's elders was murdered before our eyes. The law of the jungle has been reaffirmed, not by the king of the jungle, but by its newest, most vicious predator. The family legacy now hangs in the balance, threatening to drown in a sea of ambition and disrespect. As we process this devastating scene, we are left with a heartbreaking reflection.